Hi, it's Vanessa here, and I'm discussing the week 3 assumption. And the week 3 assumption is people with high IQs are good language learners. I think that people with high IQs are good language learners can be a myth and may not necessarily be true. However, when you look at this assumption in a different lens, that language learners have high IQs, I think it is a different statement. And all you really need to do is flip a little bit these words. Most people who are polyglots, people who have learned multiple languages or are bilingual, have to have some degree of intelligence and higher IQ because the mind has to work harder, especially when you're code switching between 1, 2, or even 3 languages. So I tend to believe that polyglots and multiple language learners are in fact quite intelligent and probably have very high IQs. However, I think that this assumption isn't that way. That's not the intent of this assumption, that language learners have IQs, high IQs. I think, in fact, this is saying that if you have a high IQ, it is an automatic assumption that you're going to be a good language learner. And I don't believe that that is true. I don't believe how high your IQ is going to be is going to determine whether or not you're going to be a good language learner. But I do think that there's truth to the fact that polyglots are probably more intelligent because they have to learn to communicate in more than one language. When you think about people coming to a country and having to learn a second or third language, those people have to have a higher IQ. I don't think that the assumption that you have a high IQ means that you can learn a second language, especially recreationally, like if you're choosing to, versus someone who has to learn a second or third language in order to just live and survive in a country. And those are very different types of understandings of a language or motivation for language. So I think when you talk about high IQ and learning a second or third language recreationally for the desire of it, you cannot make the assumption that someone with a high IQ is automatically going to be a good language learner. I do find that people who are mathematical, logical thinkers tend to have an easier time learning languages because they can see patterns. On the flip side of that, though, is sometimes those mathematical, logical thinkers have really hard times with language learning when the language learning becomes abstract and doesn't necessarily have a link to their native language. So those are my thoughts, and have a great Sunday evening.